Well, with just a few days left until Christmas, I do hope you're enjoying this series. Our carol today is Unto Us is Born a Son, which contains these words. Christ from heaven descending low comes on earth a stranger. Ox and ass their owner know, now cradled in a manger. The ox and ass, or cow and donkey, have been familiar features in nativity scenes from at least medieval times, and they also appear in several well-known Christmas carols. But the Bible doesn't describe any animals as being present at the birth of Jesus. Although the fact that Jesus was laid in a manger, a feeding trough, means it's not unlikely that there were animals in close vicinity. One long-standing tradition finds support for an animal presence at Christ's birth in the Greek translation of the Old Testament, known as the Septuagint. That was well known among the Jews at the time of Jesus. In that translation, in Habakkuk 3:2, it says, O Lord, thou shalt be known between the two living creatures. Now, some ancient writers attempted to apply this text to the newborn Jesus and to identify the particular living creatures in question as ox and ass. But to say the least, this connection is rather doubtful. First, in the original Hebrew of Habakkuk 3:2, there isn't any reference to living creatures. The Septuagint translation seems to be based on either a misreading of the Hebrew or perhaps a Hebrew text that had been miscopied. Second, and more conclusively, there's nothing in the original context in Habakkuk to suggest that the prophet had animals in mind. But if there were living creatures at Jesus' birth, why did people think they were the ox and ass of all animals? This tradition developed from the beginning of the book of Isaiah, where the Lord speaks a word of judgment. Here are some words from Isaiah chapter 1. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. Children have I reared and brought up, but they have rebelled against me. The ox knows its owner, and the donkey, or ass in the King James Bible, its master's crib. But Israel does not know, my people do not understand. Well, even if we recognise that this isn't a text about Christmas, there's an important lesson for us in these words. In context, God is laying an indictment against his people for their ignorance of him. Israel doesn't know, and their lack of understanding of both his identity and his relationship to them. The Lord calls heaven and earth to witness this shocking state of affairs. God is, and has acted as, a loving father to his children, and yet those children have rebelled against him. The description of the ox and ass in Isaiah is freighted with theological significance and irony. The owner literally refers to the purchaser, which echoes God's purchase of his people, the Israelites, in the redemption of the Exodus. And master is the Hebrew word Baal or Baal, which, apart from its usual meanings of owner and lord, carried connotations of idolatrous worship, the god Baal or Baal, when it was applied to false gods whom the Israelites frequently served. There's therefore a contrast between the children of Israel on the one hand and the dumb beasts on the other, the ox and the ass. The animals instinctively and by experience recognize their owner and master, especially as the one who's reared them and provided for them by means of a full crib or a full manger. Theirs is a brutish kind of faithfulness perhaps, but at least they know. The Israelites, in sharp contrast, display willful ignorance of their Father God, despite their many privileges. They prefer to turn to other lords, the Baals, and prostitute themselves to the highest bidders. The original Latin text of the carol Unto Us is Born a Son has its roots in the Middle Ages, although both of the English translations commonly sung today date from the early 20th century. The carol, following both the traditions we've looked at and the teaching of the New Testament, applies the Isaianic irony to the people of Jesus' own day. Ox and ass their owner know. You see, the world of nature recognises and submits to the Son of God. Yet this isn't the case among the world of men and women, even today. Jesus Christ, despite his heavenly origin and his revelation of the Father, comes on earth a stranger. He was despised and rejected by men who hated the light and did not come to the light. But there is a note of hope in the carol, of course. The Son of God is born unto us. And the reference here is again to Isaiah's prophecy. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. The gift of God, the one who is himself mighty God, is for sinners. Jesus came to people who were lost in ignorance of the one who's always provided for them and cared for them all along. The light that is Jesus Christ is hated by many, but by the grace of God, not by all forever. Indeed, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. And those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them has light shined. In our ignorance, we were worse than the beasts. That's the point. But by the light of the world, we can trust in Jesus and have been enabled to recognize and to be reconciled to our true Master. Jesus, once a stranger to us, has become our friend.